Hello. Hi, my people. Hello, everyone. Give me 1 second. I'm trying to find a pen here so I can edit some things. Hi, everyone. How are you doing today? I hope you're doing well. I apologize for coming this late. I talked about coming yesterday, but I couldn't make it yesterday, so I'm going to play catch up today because we have quite a bit to catch up on. How are you doing? Welcome, welcome. Welcome, my dear. I see you up there. It's going to load. The names will keep loading, but I can't see any names just yet. Welcome. My name is Lady Winnie, and I'm here today to cover a few things that have happened this last week in Uganda. Lots of politics, lots of changes, lots of updates, LC1 elections, a few things that have happened that we had talked about. Hello, Sophie. Sophie, you're very welcome. Thank you. Good to see you. Good to see you here. So we have quite a bit to cover, and I want to dive right in. So welcome, share. I have some really, really important news that you can share to, as many audiences as possible, especially human rights organizations that are concerned with human rights violations all over the world, especially in Uganda. So thank you all for coming. I'm going to tie in some things that I talked about before that are related to what have happened currently so that we are all caught up with what we said and what has happened. I'm also going to talk about, yes, Zaina, yes, it's been long. That's for sure. It's been long. I had some things I had to do, but I'm here. I'm glad to be here. Okay. You're all very, very, very welcome. Very welcome. Very welcome. So diving right into changes, updates, continuations, we want to start with following the death of the children that happened, the bus accidents in Kapchorwa, King David School, then the other accident with the train, the other one with the school buses of the children. All those tie into what we talked about where, as we all know, that there has to be something wrong, which many countries have commented, our neighboring countries like Kenyans or Tanzanians or Sudanese, people who interact with Ugandans, who wonder how Uganda has been under this rule for so long without feeling like something is wrong. Chosen Becky. She said she nearly filed me as a missing person. No, they couldn't do anything to me. That's for sure. That's for sure. So anyway, so I was highlighting the fact that, it has to be strange. It feels strange. Looking in from the outside, you wonder how Uganda for 40 years has been held up under this leadership that is obviously not favoring for Ugandans, but the fact that it still exists and Ugandans are still under this leadership. It's not like we have been a monarch for a very long time. We've studied the European revolutions. We've studied about the French Revolution. We studied about all kinds of things that instilled lifelong leaders, okay, in other countries. But what doesn't make sense for Uganda is the fact that, this is a normal guy. This Museveni person is not rooted in Uganda. But how come for several years, Museveni, for 40 years, in fact, when Museveni talks about the amount of time he has been a leader or has been in the politics or vicinity of leadership of Uganda, he talks about 60 years. It makes you wonder, how come? How did we get here? How did we not see or feel like this is wrong? How did we not know to feel or think about change? When you compare the presidents who have led the United States, for example, which I'm familiar with because I live here, several two-term presidents have been president. Even one-term presidents have been presidents for many, many different presidents have led the U.S. during the period where Museveni has been president for so long. So then you wonder, how come for this many years we have not felt different? We have not known, we've not been able to tell that this is wrong. We've not been able to feel like, goodness, let's check ourselves. We've not questioned. When things happen, we just haven't thought, we haven't questioned, we haven't thought twice. We just moved on. We just continued living, okay? This is somebody who's a foreigner, okay? And I'm a foreigner in this country, and this country has been amazing. I am not disrespectfully a foreigner here. I know my boundaries. I know where the rule says you can't go here, you can't. You just can't. You just have to respect that. The reason why we don't hate Kenyans, we don't have issues with Kenyans, Tanzanians, Sudanese, Burundians, Congolese, is because we live in peace with these people. They live in Uganda. We're friendly. We love them. We care for each other. But then we have a problem with this Rwandese group in Uganda, specifically because they have come into a country where people live peacefully, where they welcome them as refugees, and now they want to be the sole leaders of Uganda. From Museveni, after being around power, within power, in power for 60 years, he now wants to bring in his son. It is wrong. And that brings us to a point where, how come this happened for so long and we didn't know how? We didn't know, we didn't feel any different. He came in with a slogan where he said he brought peace and people can now sleep, or people are doing better, or we are fine, or we're happy. But no, in the background, there's been so much loss. There's been so much displacement. There's been so much sadness among people. There's been lots of killing, loss of life, lots of disease, lots of, impoverished communities. People have been set back. As a country, Ugandans have been set back many, many, many years. When you look at the days of Idi Amin, the days of Obode, the days of the previous leaders of Uganda, you can tell there was pride about being Ugandan, pride about what Ugandans did for Uganda, pride about several things that, you as a country, you feel like we're doing well. We are okay. We're okay. Today, when you talk to people back home, there's a lot of fear. That's how Ugandans have been living under this Museveni government for all these years. Even before, those who knew him a long while before knew to be careful about him, to stay away, to stay beside him, to not cross this line and not cross that line. But more so, they have portrayed a bad interest in being guests or visitors, by the fact that they want to be the sole leaders of a country called Uganda, and more so make Ugandans as a people slaves of theirs, a modern day slavery. That's not okay. Now, I want to bring about how come this has led to this. I am not, personally, in my lifetime, I have not lived a life where I've been exposed, to like witchcraft or anything like that. But when Museveni talks about spiritually leading Uganda, or being a spiritual person, or Uganda being a spiritual country, it begs the question, where does that come from? How come this man for so long has led us like this? For 60 years, for 40 years, this man has been around. It does make sense, because now what we've come to learn, from the people around them, from what they do, from the practices that happen, which I'm going to give you highlights of, like the children who were killed in a bus accident, the King David school children, the ones who were hit by a train, the ones who the driver and one of the children says, you know what? This driver did something. This driver made it seem like he was going to cause something like this. It all ties into the fact that when you compare to the times that he came, the people of Luero who got massacred in large numbers. Okay. Being a spiritual person, I've learned, I've read, I've studied. It all makes sense. It all makes sense. Now, I'm going to give you some of the information that we have gotten about certain things that have happened, and they will help make sense to tie in how come we got here. And for so long, what happened to the Kadogo children, the people of Luero, from where I come from, the LRA war, where so many young children were abducted, so many taken to war, so many killed, so many things happening to these children. All of that was spiritual. All those atrocities that happened were sacrifices for Museveni to try to stay in power, and pass on the baton to his son, Muhoozi, whom I understand has been vehemently rejected by whomever they go to see as a spiritual leader. They've said Muhoozi is not somebody who Ugandans will accept. Therefore, they should pack their bags and leave Uganda. I wish they'd do that peacefully, but knowing that Museveni knows that he has nowhere to lean. He knows that if Muhoozi does not become president, he's not safe anywhere in this world. He knows that his only safe haven is to have Muhoozi be president, so he's protected legally or internationally when the crimes against humanity start to follow him, so that they can come and get him, or whatever the case might be. So I'm going to highlight several of those points, plus some of the things that have happened that kind of, mirror the images of the times that Museveni existed as, coming into power or president, to the time that he's no longer, and to this time that, he's trying to instill his son. So all of these are going to tie in, and some of the events that happened recently. So let's start with the children, the site in Mukono, Jinja, where the school bus with the children crashed and several of them died. What we have found is that same night where that happened, Balam, Museveni, Muhoozi, and SFCs obviously took them to that site to go and collect remains of those children so that they can take it to their place to do what they do with it. So they took all of those remains to State House, and Museveni and his family, except Natasha. I understand Natasha refused to join in because she is fed up with her father and family struggling and hanging on to power by force. She has been done. She has told them, when Janet, before she passed, Janet told her, my daughter, I wish your father and their son could just leave this thing alone. We can leave and be free and go and live somewhere else peacefully. But obviously, Museveni does not go down lightly, so he has insisted and continues to push to see that Muhoozi is instilled in power after him. And you can also tell the challenges that happen that are stopping him from making this so easy, because obviously the requests, despite the failure and the constant commentary from the spiritual people saying, you know what, Muhoozi doesn't have it. Muhoozi cannot be a leader of Uganda. Ugandans have rejected Muhoozi. The father goes back in and says, you know what, can you do something else? Give us a new task. Give us something else we can do to get there. He's trying every level best to get there, to leave his son as a president of Uganda. Obviously, Ugandans have rejected these people. Obviously, they're forceful about their agenda that they want to make Muhoozi the president of Uganda. And obviously, the activities that surround things that happen very strangely in Uganda today are purposely intended for spiritual satisfaction, to try to instill Muhoozi in that position. So at the accident of the children, which I understand they're requiring about 700 people, 700 candidates of young children, their blood or whatever the case might be, to be taken, to be consumed by those spiritual things, to give Muhoozi power to lead Uganda, or to change the hearts of Ugandans to get him where he wants to be. Okay? Very strange. I can't explain this on a normal day. It's not how I live, but I'm bringing you the information as it is, as it does unfold in Uganda, and as it happens in State House. You must understand that a lot of people, even the close working people, people who work closely with these people are tired of these guys. They want them out. They just don't have a way to do it just yet. But I know Ugandans will conjure whatever they have left in them when it becomes too much, because you can control the physical of a person, but you can't control their spirit. So somehow, somewhere, someday, we will bring it. You know, Ugandans will bring it and get these people out. But in the meantime, we'll all do the best of what we can with what we have. And so here I am. Okay. So at the site of the children accident in Mukono, Jinja, they went in the night and took blood remains or whatever remains from the accident, took it back to State House. Whatever the blood was that they got from the incident, from the remains of the accident, they took it and mixed it or did whatever they do with it and bathed in it. Muhoozi and Museveni and the other family members except Natasha, because Natasha has been done and would like to just let this thing go and go someplace else. I talked to you previously about an accident somewhere, an airplane crash somewhere within East Africa. This is all very strange stuff, but I'm going to say it and leave it out there because it comes as it is. And this has to show us how sick these people are and how come this has lasted so long. I want to help us understand why Museveni is still here, 40 plus years, still in the leadership of Uganda. Honestly, it cannot be just nothing else except some other thing that controls or keeps us calm or whatever the case might be. It couldn't just be because Museveni is Museveni. No, that's not it. Things would have changed by now. So to bring you to that, let's keep going. I talked about that airplane thing where one of the newer, the higher risk events that they required is that an airplane crash, they would find a way to get a crash to happen. In that crash, they would do something about it and cause Muhoozi to become loved or liked or make Ugandans more interested in him. That happened, I believe, last week. And when they went back to the spiritual person, the person said, no, it didn't work because we said when that airplane comes out of the sky, everybody was to not exist. Okay. It did not happen that way. That just goes to show you that, whatever they have, whatever powers they think they've got, the power of God has been stronger, has always been. And I know that Uganda is ripe for change and it's time for change. And no matter what they do, they're not going to achieve it. So with that failing, one other crazy thing happened where this incident about cleaning Kampala, it was not something that was planned. It was not, in any case, if cleaning Kampala has to happen or cleaning the city has to happen, KCCA would be in charge of that. Don't you wonder why? If not, the roads authority people would have to be involved. And if not, this requirement to have all cities clean would take time. There'd be a planning phase. There'd be where garbages need to go. If they did sweep and clean up, there'd be where the trash has to go. There would be, different people handed responsibility to perform these activities all over Uganda. Okay. So the reason why this was abrupt is because when they went back to this person or the spiritual people and told them, what next? If the airplane thing didn't work, what else do we do? They said, we need you to go and between you and Ugandans, clean up cities, like sweeping, general cleaning. All of a sudden, they said on Friday, they said on Saturday, we're cleaning the whole country. That does not make sense. It doesn't happen anywhere in the world that we make a policy or a policy comes to mind today. It's signed into law today and it's acted upon the next day without preparation, without the right authorities, without the right, like usual. KCCA would have had to do that. But instead, the enforcement was through the police and Nabbanja. It's obvious that he would choose somebody like Nabbanja because there's not much respect for. You could throw anything. Museveni could throw anything at Nabbanja and she'll take it and not even question why this is happening or how come it's me doing it. Because they know she's so foolish, she will not realize that there may be concerns about why are you doing this. So the spiritual person told them to go and clean the city of Kampala, or cities of the area. In the process of cleaning, there would be, hold on a second, let me give you the right, okay. So while they sweep the cities or different parts of Uganda, they would be cleaning Uganda from a bad history. They would be sweeping all the pain out of Uganda, all the tears from Uganda, all the anger against them, all national debt that they have, that they owe. They'll be sweeping away Uganda as a country. And I'm going to come back to that because there's a new development about something they're trying to do about Uganda as a country, Uganda, Rwanda, and Sudan combined as a united something of East Africa, which I'm going to get to that later. But the purpose of this sweeping was an order or a request that was made by one of their spiritual people. Again, everything that they've done has been rejected or denied or has been treated as a failure because they are insisting on keeping Muhoozi or getting Muhoozi to remain or to be president of Uganda. And all of their attempts have failed so far. In the process of sweeping that night, and this sounds really crazy, it's almost embarrassing to say. It's hard to speak about these things, I'm telling you. But as I get them, so I should share them because you're going to see them. And it will make sense when things like this happen. So you're not going to wonder why there's garbage all over the streets in piles and now they've spread back to where they used to be. Because this was not intended for cleaning Uganda for the sake of Uganda being clean. The spiritual meaning behind cleaning Uganda was for them, for their own success, for Muhoozi's success to get where they want him to be. Despite all manner of rejection that he cannot be a president of Uganda. So I want you to understand how we get there and how we got here, okay? So while that sweeping happened on Saturday daytime, the requirement was that Muhoozi and Museveni go out into Kampala in the streets, dead in the night, Bukunya, without clothes, both of them, and go walk the streets of Kampala. Some traders, if you have any traders, any people who are in trade or business, like selling and stuff in the markets, this and that, you can talk to them because I understand these guys went out at about 3 a.m. Yes, they had to do their ritual at 3 a.m. By 2 a.m., SFCs had already closed the streets of Kampala. Nobody going in and out. And it opened at 10 a.m. In fact, most traders on Sunday morning were very, very sad about missing trade because certain parts of Kampala were closed off without access to traders to go and deliver stuff so that those who come to buy can buy stuff and take away to where they normally do. Business as usual. So it makes you wonder, why were streets swept on Saturday specifically when the idea came on Friday, was not discussed, was not assigned? Why wasn't KCCA involved? Why wasn't the Ministry of Roads Authority, whatever, involved? Why wasn't anybody else involved except Nabanja, the police, SFCs, and a few people who were picked to do the job? How come? It does make sense that also at 10 o'clock in the morning, after the SFCs let go of the lockdown or the street closure, they did let Muhoozi came out and appeared about 10 or 11 o'clock. And his reason for coming was to come and also participate in the sweeping, which was a spiritual thing, not something that benefits hygiene in Kampala or Uganda. Muhoozi comes then, for his part, is to come and complete and perform a little bit of that to make him agreeable or to present him as the acceptable president or leader of Uganda. In that, and the people who were picked to go and perform the sweeping, spiritually, what happened was they were agreeing with the Muhoozi's whatever that was going on, that they accept Muhoozi and they are agreeing and sealing this whole idea together. Therefore, they're willing to move forward. Thankfully, it's just a few people that did it. They don't, like I said, many Ugandans have fought wars that they didn't even know what they're going to fight for. Many Ugandans have defended activities that were ushered in by the Musevenis that they didn't understand truly what the meaning of it was. Many people have been sent to missions by Museveni without truly knowing what the hidden agenda was. They went out to perform. They didn't know why. Well, they knew why because they gave him a reason. However, the real reason always remained unknown to them, but known to the people who sent them. The people who are suffering that, like the Anita Amongs, the people who have ushered in Museveni and worked with Museveni, Aronda Nyakairima worked for Museveni, well-intended for Uganda, well-intended to protect the borders, well-intended to protect immigrations. Aronda Nyakairima ended up getting assassinated or killed by Museveni because Aronda thought they were on the same page with Museveni. And yet when Aronda stopped the Rwandese influx through immigrations, Museveni decided to eliminate Nyakairima because Nyakairima was limiting his actual intentions of an immigration's free flow for Rwandese people into Uganda. So I want you to always not take Museveni's initiatives for face value. Okay? The Kayiras who ushered in Museveni, the Kayiras were hoodwinked. They were brainwashed because they were told that they are fighting Obote, they were fighting Idi Amin to get Idi Amin out because Idi Amin is so bad. And yet in the night, the Museveni people went into communities and villages and killed a lot of Ugandans in the uniforms of the Idi Amin's armies, of the Obote's armies. They wore the uniform of the army that was current and went and burned and killed communities. And in the next morning, they came with their own uniform to present themselves as the saviors of those communities. Museveni is never well-intended for Ugandans. Their plans and their ideas and having Muhoozi as a continuance is not a great idea. I am not opposed to every single Rwandese person in this world. No. But can you imagine having a visitor in your home, but this visitor wants to sleep in the master bedroom? This visitor wants to take charge and be the one to assign meals for the day and be the one to tell your wife what to do or husband what to do and be the one to tell you how you live in your household. Picture that in a big way. That is how Museveni affects Uganda. That is how the Museveni family and being Rwandese is a problem for Uganda. Because why must it be them to lead us as a country and tell Ugandans what to do for their country and be the only leaders? Even if Museveni had been a good leader and he said, I'm just going to do 10 years and I'm gone, it would be forgivable. We would say, you know what, that's perfect. Let's get somebody else in line. But here's a gentleman who does not want an opposition, does not want anybody to oppose his ideas, only prefers Rwandese people in his leadership. His family tops all leadership offices in Uganda. I mean, it is wrong. So when Rwandese think that we hate all of them, it's not really that. We don't hate all of you. We hate the fact that some of you who are in Uganda have taken charge and crippled a local native because you feel like you, Rwandese handful, the Gashumbas, the Andrew Mwendas, you feel like you are the only good crop in this country. No. That is the problem we have with this Rwandese invasion, and we must continue to fight. We must continue to fight. As Uganda, the more we give up, the more we give in. And these guys are working day and night. So let's just continue with this. It upsets me sometimes, you know. Let's go to a both. I understand they've said in their community, as they talk in their meetings, they've said Oboth, apparently this was Muhoozi, Salim Saleh, Museveni. They were in a meeting where they said Oboth is no longer useful. In fact, they feel like Oboth is too dumb for them to have as a speaker, because he doesn't seem vibrant. He doesn't seem like he has the energy that they expected. He's not a Kabanda type. Therefore, they've asked his deputy, Tayebwa. Tayebwa will now take on big cases in parliament. He will be in charge of leading parliament when there are important issues. However, he's going to leave the atrocious topics that end up, you know, these human rights type topics that have to be chaired in parliament. Those will be handled by Oboth, because, like I said, Museveni is not there for Ugandans to do better, to be better, to improve their lives, to live better. So Oboth, I can see him following his predecessors by all means. They've said that once Oboth has served a certain time that they're pleased with him, then they'll let him go. Not letting him go does not mean free. Okay, so you know how that ends. Just like Anita Among, just like the formers. Okay, so Tayebwa will now carry on with all important bills in parliament, while, you know, chairing parliament on important issues. Oboth will be given the challenging issues like human rights cases, so that he's the one on the answering tough questions that will be captured internationally and shared internationally about what his response was as a speaker, so that when indictments come down, they come and clamp him and not Tayebwa, because Tayebwa is their own person. You see? And that's what it has always been. It's about using Ugandans to perform the dirty work, so that they're the ones caught in the web, because they don't want these Rwandese people to be the ones who are affected when the law comes down on them. International law, I mean, because Ugandan law is under Museveni's palm, like that. It is why policemen who are sent to go and beat people up, they could be Ugandans, because they want them to be on camera. When SFC from Rwanda come and beat people and this and that, obviously they're in masks. But you do remember the gentleman who beat up Kyagulanyi Ssentamu in Gulu, when he went to Gulu to be during the campaign times. That person, because we've made him popular, he came up on Facebook, and His Excellency posted and shared about him. That whole group of those Rwandese SFCs who acted in Gulu, and we had them on cameras and videos and photos, have been processed and sent back to Rwanda to hide them from the limelight, because, like I said, they protect their own. Had that been a Ugandan, just about anybody, trust me, they would have offered them for sacrifice to be taken by whichever organization that is there to take people for human rights violations. So that, he's in a purple burgundy type t-shirt with a sweatpants or something. They were holding sticks. That same group is the one that beat up Kyagulanyi Ssentamu's I think his one of his friends. I forget his name. I know who he is. But you remember, he had to be escorted out of Gulu very fast. His life was at threat. But those guys that were tall and from Rwanda holding sticks were prepared to be have been shipped back to Rwanda to be hidden away from the public eye, international prosecution. Anita Among, the case of Anita Among is going to take a new twist. She's still on house arrest. Her people, Imorimori, you know, all the leaders of Teso are coming up and trying to request Museveni to change his mind and not let her go, release her funds, because all her funds are frozen, all bank accounts frozen. Now, Anita Among, I understand one of the bigger issues was that Anita Among was sort of or somehow in touch or had some sort of agreements with Salva Kiir of South Sudan. It is why Anita's assets look bigger than what the losses, let's say the funds that were lost from, or the bribery that she had done that are recorded from the Parliamentary Commission and all of that. That money does not add up. The funds that she was getting or stealing through Chris Obore and all these other people. Oh, Dan Magic, thank you, Zaina. Dan Magic was hurt in Gulu at the time that that gentleman from Rwanda and their SFC group were trying to beat up Chagulanyi Sentamu. So anyways, Anita Among has ties with Salva Kiir. And that offended Museveni terribly. Besides Anita Among being looking too powerful for Museveni to handle, Anita Among had an ally with Salva Kiir, whereby there was a lot of money sent to her, and that's why she had a lot of assets. She had all these homes, she had these stadiums, and she bought the Rolls Royce and all that. And Museveni got word that that was the connection. That home of Anita Among was a home built by Salva Kiir for his planned retirement. And that seemed like a problem for Museveni because, as you know, Museveni does not want anybody competing with him or seeming like they have any sort of influence. That is why Anita Among was taken down very quickly and down, because previously, you remember Museveni bragging about, you know, even if Anita Among is corrupt or she's stealing here and there, she's at least investing in Uganda. Little did he know that there was extra money coming from South Sudan. That Rolls Royce is rumored to have been sent in by Salva Kiir for Anita Among. There can't be two leaders in the same household, so to speak. So that's how come Anita Among ended up that way. However, all requests have fallen on deaf ears. The Imorimori, the leaders of Teso, they've begged Museveni. Museveni will allow them. He'll say, well, come on, let's talk. Once he talks with them, he goes around them and does something else. He swears he will not let Anita Among go. Anita Among is going to be treated as though they're taking her to court. You remember how they did with this, the guy who, Onyum, the case of Onyum. Anita Among will be treated as though they're taking her to court. They'll present evidence. They'll present this and that. Once that happens, the judge will rule, because you know Museveni's household is the only one that makes rulings in Uganda. Let nobody tell you that the judicial system has any teeth in them. The judicial system has no function without the function of Museveni. Whatever Museveni says goes. Therefore, when that time comes that they bring Anita Among to court, you know, like they're about to say something, but like the BCJ case where now they're saying he needs to have, let's not talk about BCJ. No. So they'll take her to court and seem like it's a normal court proceeding. Then she's obviously going to be found guilty. They'll remand her to Luzira. But before that happens, you know, the people will plead with them and so on and so forth and say, okay, we'll let you go on house arrest at home because you are former speaker of Uganda. Okay. Then they'll take her home. And when she gets back home, because they'll feel like they've done some due process, showing the Western world that Anita Among faced due process because she did go to court, presented her case, had attorneys defend her or whatever the case may be, but she lost the case. Therefore, Anita Among is rightfully a criminal and is going to be on house arrest. Meanwhile, at house arrest, she is being watched and guarded by SFCs. These are Museveni's own militia that guard Anita Among, the former speaker of Uganda. You would think, being a speaker of a country, when something like this happens, okay, you are awarded or accorded due process because of who you are. You serve the country. You're legitimately, you're not going to run away anytime soon, okay? And if you do, you're recognizable. So to treat Anita Among, a former speaker of parliament, like this, imagine what they do to a foot soldier. Imagine what they do to somebody who is a nobody, a commoner who has nobody to defend them. If Museveni treats a whole former speaker of parliament this way, imagine what he will do when he has a regular person, simple crime, or maybe crime of interest, like loving Chagulanyi Sentamu, all of that. Imagine what Mwanga Chivumbi is going through right now, you know? If Anita Among is treated that way, it does warrant, it makes sense that Mwanga Chivumbi is going through what he's going through, because that only shows you the lawlessness there is in a country like Uganda. Anita Among knows the law. Anita Among has studied law. Anita Among is no regular person. But you will see that she's treated in a manner that she has no control of any, even if she could defend herself, even if she has no grounds to. She can't go free. Anita Among cannot go to the store. Anita Among cannot walk outside her yard freely. Anita Among cannot, because even now, without her being, without a ruling of her having committed these crimes, she's already treated as a criminal. In a country like Uganda, where you are a criminal first before deemed innocent, you know, it only begs the question, who is in charge? Who matters to you? Who is in charge of anything? Nobody. Let nobody tell you that they're in charge of this office or that office or the judicial system. I mean, KCCA, Roads Authority, none of that. All power is to this Museveni and family. All of it. Because he says, his saying goes, and he makes all decisions. However anybody ends up, whether you are a deputy speaker, prime minister, as long as you are not Museveni's family, you are crushable. You are crushable. You have no stance to legally fight something, even if you are right, even if you're innocent. Your innocence, your determination, your due process has no ground. Absolutely no ground. They do what they want with you and your life is up. Anita Among can fight all she wants, but she has no fighting room. She doesn't. So you might as well, for those of you like Oboth who are still trying to swell up in these positions and be big-headed and you know, make other people suffer, your time is coming. All of you working for Museveni, it's a matter of time. It's a matter of time. All right, LC1 elections. They've seen a lot of embarrassment. In fact, last night there was a meeting between Museveni and Byabakama, where they talk about how much shame they have suffered going through this election the way they did. Having people line up behind whoever their choice is in broad daylight. Everybody, despite all manner of abuse, harassment at voting sites, I applaud all Ugandans for trying, for going to the polls, for making your decisions, for standing behind that person and being counted. Whether you made it and were counted correctly or not, just the effort. The fact that it's recorded that you guys went and you guys made your choice and your choice was clear and it's all over the media, it's all over the news, even if, which they are debating, to try to call off this whole thing that happened and say the elections we're canceling what happened. It didn't go right. There were some violations. Therefore, it seems like we're going to call this off and start afresh, because what their plan is, they're trying to reintroduce a ballot election for LCs. They're trying to do that. In their discussion, they say they're too embarrassed by having people line up behind other people because despite their bribery, despite what they gave people, their monies and all these things to get people to change their mind, everybody voted with their heart. They went and lined up behind the right person who they meant to elect, not the person who they were given sugar or some money to choose or elect or be by. So they're sorely embarrassed because the LC1 elections were planned to be the grassroots for the Muhoozi 2030 upcoming elections. What they want to do, because as I mentioned in the Kabano, if you see one of my very first videos, the Kabano organization of the Musevenis, the Kabano organization is an organization by Rwandese, especially the Museveni people, the refugees, the original refugees of Rwanda. In their bylaws is to have connections from the top to the grassroots, meaning that people who are local, like local council members, LC1s, LC2, women chairpersons, All those people had to be their people because they can hear what's happening down here to help influence ideas from up and bring them to the community so that people change or fall in line with what they like to see or want to see. So because this time, and you know that LC elections have not happened for many years because the Musevenis were comfortable with the people whom they had on ground. But over time, with Muhoozi coming, being new, they wanted to instill new people locally at LC levels all over the country. Because the Museveni people had allegiance to Museveni, they now need a new breed to have allegiance to Muhoozi. That's why the new LC elections have happened. I think it's been more than 7 years, or maybe 10 years even, that they haven't had elections. Those local LCs call directly. They have a direct line to the State House. If they have to report an incident or report something that they needs to get taken care of, they, more than the minister in Uganda, have the direct connection with Museveni at any time, whenever they want to get in touch with him. Same with the Balalos in the community. Same with the loan officers in the community. Those people who give small monies here and there. All those people have connection direct to the State House. They are the eyes and ears of those Rwandese people up there in the ground, on the, in the villages, in the local communities, because they want to know, because their biggest fear right now is that if Uganda has a coup d'etat, they will not spend the night in that country. That's their biggest fear. So they want to know what people are saying. What are they saying? What do they want to do? What are they feeling like? And that's why they wanted Muhoozi, these new people, to be Muhoozi's people. So therefore, they wanted a lot of NRM people to pass and win the elections of LCs so that they have their web cast wide, so that they can track and get information as they usually did. Thank you, because that did not happen the way they did want. It did not happen the way they wanted it. So that's a score on the side of Uganda, because it means that we still have our pockets, our strongholds, our supports. We're building every day. Despite our president not being in the country, we have a function that we have never seen before. For Museveni to get elections anywhere, he almost has to go himself. He went to Kalangala at the re-election, when they had the re-election after our candidate Nachimuli passed away. Museveni had to go there himself. But a functional system means if a system is in place, it doesn't matter where the leader is. And Kyagulanyi Ssentamu, being abroad and out here, obviously is doing the best possible that he can for his country. And that's why Museveni knows for a fact that him being out here is going to cause him some trouble. And it is happening. So I admire the structure, and thank you all for what you have done so far. That's amazing, amazing results, amazing results. Despite all the problems, all the shakeup, all the atrocities, all the beatings, all those things, despite all that, you came, you showed up, it's recorded, it's shared. We know what happened. We know who you elected. It has been national unity platform everywhere. Thank you for that. All right, moving on. They had plans to forcefully declare NRM candidates, but they were embarrassed out of it because the lines were way too long to even attempt that. They did try for some areas, but the lines were too long of people who are genuinely behind Kyagulanyi Ssentamu, behind National Unity Platform. Whomever was lined up, whoever was there to represent National Unity Platform was the one who people stood behind. So that was powerful. And never, ever ignore a democratic process, because you just never know. You don't want to get caught up in a crime, because then your case may be very difficult to get to. But if you did this like you do peacefully, it's out there. They can do whatever they want, because we are on the right track, and the right always, always, always stands. Okay? Mwanga Chivumbi. Mwanga Chivumbi is in a terrible, terrible state. Word is that he has been moved from Kasenyi, where he was. He's now in a different safe house somewhere in Kampala. He has been beaten badly. The reason why he has not been brought to court is because they're trying to get him to accept working for Museveni or joining the NRM. And if he does not agree, they will likely do something terrible to Mwanga Chivumbi. He has been beaten so badly. They cannot afford to bring him to court because he can barely sit or stand. So pray for Mwanga Chivumbi. I mean, I understand that being what is going on in Uganda, it is hard to say that we can transition peacefully without anyone getting hurt. But it is sad, the amount of hurt that these people can engineer, the amount of hurt that they can make happen is appalling. Because you would think that at some point they'd say, you know what, it's too much, we can stop here. Or let's just forget about this. But it's astronomical that they continue to upgrade and go on and go. The best part about it is the fact that even if so much has happened so far, people are still strong. There's hope. People have been more empowered than they've been before by the things that are happening on a daily basis. On a daily basis. Yes, Fuluk, I know. We do need him alive, and we pray that things don't get that far. But in the hands of somebody like this, you just never know. But what they have done to Mwanga Chivumbi, again, same like they did to the Speaker of Parliament, same thing. Mwanga Chivumbi is a two-time member of Parliament that you would think he'd be treated with some sort of dignity, but obviously that's not the case either. It begs, again, for the, you think about who is really safe in Uganda. Nobody is. We somehow have to figure out how to save ourselves if we must get to a place where this doesn't happen. And I know that it's gotten less and less. It used to be worse. The time when Kavuma was killed, the time when Frank Senteza was killed, it was rampant. It was happening a lot. It is still happening, and I know that. But it's not as much as it used to be. However, I'm trying to say this to say that if we could do something, if something could happen today, it would save a life tomorrow, is what I'm trying to say. We need to figure out, and we continue to, and we hope that, the international human rights communities come down and see what they can do about situations like this. But we think about it, and there is no situation that you can achieve a certain amount of success, especially where something like this happens, where it's a walk in the park. It's always difficult. Challenges will happen, but it should not break us. It should not stop us. We must always find a way to build back and get back and keep pushing, because obviously the 6 years that Chagulanyi sent a message celebrating the 6 years of National Unity Platform. I do believe, when you have a jar of water and you drop a rock in it, that rock displaces some water from there. I think what National Unity Platform has done, it has been that rock, and it has displaced NRM more than the 40 years of NRM compared to the 6 years of National Unity Platform. I think we've made a dent on those people. I don't underestimate the fact that it has been 6 years and we have achieved this much in this revolution. It couldn't have been easy. It cannot be easy. That is why Mwanga Chivumbi is suffering. That's why Blue Tick has a target on her. They really want to get Blue Tick again. And I don't know what they had agreed with her once she left detention or whatever the case might be. But they have a target on Blue Tick. And I don't know if I know she's aware by now, because ASP had mentioned that yesterday. We hope that she will take heed. But that just goes to show you that these people are so scared and afraid of the youth and the young people of Uganda coming together and kicking them out of that country. We know that in 6 years, we have achieved more than they've achieved in 40 years. Most of all, people are more alert and awake, and we're thoughtful, and we're thinking, and we don't take Museveni for face value anymore. Not anymore. So celebrate the six years. We celebrate our success. We remember our pains. We pray that that doesn't continue. Let's keep doing what we can to get us somewhere. Okay. In a meeting where Museveni, the cabinet, the judiciary speaker, representatives of the legislature, Balam, senior men and women were yesterday, they signed papers where they are trying to bring together Uganda, Rwanda, and Sudan to make them one country. And they're still debating the name to be given to those three countries as one. Now, what they want to do, they started by calling it United East Africa. United East African State. That's the first name they've come up with, but it's still being debated. The reason why they're merging these three countries is because Museveni, and obviously Museveni is the trouble causer in all that region. Museveni is the one that's destroying Sudan. Museveni is the one in Congo. Museveni is the one causing trouble in Uganda. So the reason for merging all three and erasing their individual names is so that Museveni can dodge all his debt. You know, because when you sue a company, you go to court and say, Susan and Sons owe me money and they don't want to pay it, or they haven't paid it, and I'm demanding my payment. Now, if I go and sue a company that does not exist, the judge will throw out the case, and the judge will say, well, there's no case here because this company does not exist. In the same sense, they want to try to undress from all of the atrocities, all of the cases at the Human Rights Watch or the UN or ICC, every atrocity that has been filed or case that has been filed against them, Museveni, Kagame, and Salva Kiir, all those cases they want to disappear, because then there will be no nation called Uganda, not one called Rwanda, and not one called Sudan in particular. Okay? They also want to rewrite Ugandan history. You know, Museveni's biggest reason or purpose for existing in Uganda is Museveni wants to leave a history that states that he is the sort of like the founder or the origin of a country called Uganda. He wants the history of Uganda to start from Museveni and on and on and on. And he wants it to follow the lineage of Museveni, then Muhoozi, then came Ruhamia or something like that, the grandson of Museveni. That is what he wants to do. And the purpose of this union, or the unification of these three countries, Rwanda, Sudan, and Uganda, is purposely intended so that Museveni can rewrite his history. Because if in 2026 is when this unity or United East African State will begin to exist, that means it starts to exist from Museveni, right, as president. The goal of having those three countries together is so that Muhoozi becomes the president of all three, and then the sons of the rest of the two countries become prime ministers or representatives in certain positions in their government. So even if they're uniting, he still wants his son to be the one who's in charge. The reason why Muhoozi went to Rwanda the other day, and there's pictures of him playing basketball with Kagame, he went there to pitch that idea. He actually had gone there 3 or 4 days before, but those photos were programmed to be released later. That is why the pictures came out a few days ago. He went to pitch the idea of a United East African State, okay, and to boycott debts that they owe. They all have debts from different countries, and Museveni has been having a hard time to pay up his debts because, for example, the Ebola incident did not generate income for him. All of what he has tried to do to try to get the Western world to send him money has not worked. Obviously, so many videos have been going out, so many reports of human rights violations, so many reports of mistreatment, misguidance. I saw something from Human Rights Watch today, that described Museveni as the winner of the election of 2026 because he shut down the internet, he shut down social media, because he locked up the opposition, because he stole the election, because it was amazing. It was amazing what they wrote after saying, yes, he won the election because he has named himself the president of Uganda. But despite calling himself that, this, and the other. So his name is pretty screwed up in the rest of the world, and he knows it. He knows that firsthand. So he wants to make this United East African state to be a new beginning for him, where there will not be Idi Amin, there will not be Obore, there will only be Museveni of 2026, the origin of the United States of East, the United East state, according to the history books, whenever that time comes. So we're going to have to share this as much as possible, because for the debtors, the people who Museveni owes, the people who Uganda owes, the people united, the ICC, where there's crimes registered against Museveni, against Muhoozi, they need to know, because if this comes into development, this is going to throw off a lot. And this before those people get paid, or those people get their, or the crimes are answered for, this should not be allowed to happen. And this is not going to happen anyway. The reason why we're sharing this is so we can get it out to the organizations, the companies. China funds Uganda a lot. Japan has a lot. Korea has a lot with Uganda. Russia has a lot in Uganda. The United States offers a lot to Uganda. So let people know, share as much as possible, because they're trying to run away from their crimes. They're trying to run away from the debt that they owe. They're trying to dodge, and if they get to a point where they can do that, all the sureties, usually when a country is going to lend, let's say the US is going to lend Uganda money, what they do is Museveni sends a representative to go and sign for it. Okay? Museveni doesn't go by himself to go and sign for the money that's coming into Uganda. Let's say they're going to give the Ministry of Education. He will send Muhingo to go and sign for that money. Now, there's come a point where if this happens, the plan is to eliminate the Muhingos. The sureties that signed for all these funds will have to be gotten rid of, because then a mere fact that the country does not exist, the individual that signed for it does not exist, gives them even a lighter weight of a case, even if they wanted to try to collect on this debt. Even if they wanted to, the guys will not be here for them to collect answers from, or the country itself that they borrowed from, that used to be on the map, will no longer exist as they knew it. Okay? Which is crazy. All right. In fact, SFCs are now controlling, because this plan has been rolling for a while. SFCs are now controlling these three countries officially, with anticipation that they would end up being a unified three countries in one. So there's plans underway. South Sudan already has SFCs running everything there. They're controlling every aspect of the country. Obviously, Museveni wants, in my previous video, I said he wants to get rid of Salva Kiir in Sudan because of this thing with Anita Among and other things that are unsatisfactory to him. And the fact that he wants to take over South Sudan, he has already distributed the armies all over. The SFCs, they're controlling those areas. They're also very fearful, especially of a coup d'etat, of people uprising in either country. They feel like it might overpower Museveni, especially because he's old and weak and unprepared, and the fact that the other regions may not be strong enough to be able to handle if something does come down heavily. My last point is about the ghetto youth groups that have been formed in Kampala. There's been several ghetto youth groups. As you know, it is intended by the Damulidas, the Salim Salehs, to try to make sure, Uganda being a very youthful country with a median age of 16, they know that the majority of Ugandans are under 35 years old. Therefore, in as much as they can, they want to make sure that they can control or manipulate the youth so that they don't pay attention or focus on change or wanting change or doing anything about change. Therefore, there's been several groups of youths that have been put together in, have been meeting Salim Saleh and Damulida around Kampala. I think they met last month and in Naguru, and later on they met in Kapeka industrial area. They're training these groups to cause a lot of, theft and robbery in local communities. And mainly their focus is to grab, assets like money, purses, and phones, because they want to get those phones. Every phone that's collected, they will hand it over to Damulida, because he wants to know what people are talking about, what's being said, how are people feeling, are they boiling up, are they getting, angsty or anxious or anything like that. So because of that, you're going to see a lot. It's going to be happening day and night, where people will feel uneasy, unsafe. They'll be attacked. Stuff will be taken from them. They'll be destroyed. The ones who might fight back might get hurt. So if you do see, there's several boda bodas, the ones that they normally take away from boda boda riders, on police hijacks or police stops, where they will say, give me your boda because you broke a certain law, traffic law and things. They take those boda bodas to a police station and store them. Those are the ones that they're going to supply to these youth groups so that they can come active into communities day and night to come and cause fear and stop people from moving about in the daytime and at night. They warn that they should not hurt these people, because a lot of their people, the Rwandese, are all over town. They're the ones walking shoes, walking chutex, walking peanuts, walking nuts, all types of things. They're all over Kampala these days, all over Uganda. So be mindful and watchful when you see these guys. They're all spies. They have a cell phone that calls directly to State House and talk to Museveni and report on something. So they're also going to be spying on homes of, people, the wealthy. They're going to be attacking those wealthy homes just to cause fear and intimidation amongst people so that they're not free. The goal of Museveni, the perfect country for Museveni to rule, is one where Ugandans do not have freedom. Basically like North Korea. That's Museveni's goal. Like North Korea, without freedom, you couldn't think about wanting to go out and do something on your own and actually do it successfully. You'd have to get permission. That's the kind of Uganda Museveni wants, and they're trying to instill. So be watchful, be careful if that happens. They will also have police backup, these youth guys who will be doing this. So be careful if that happens. Let the phone go, let whatever you have go, because your life is more important and worth all of whatever they're trying to do. So that is my video for today. I hope I hope you're well. I hope we can start to think differently about Museveni, about the country Uganda, about how come we've gone so far, 60 years, and we've not questioned why we're doing this. Why are we still here 60 years later? Why? And now he wants his son to continue after 60 years. Then Muhoozi, then his grandson. No. And these are foreigners that came as refugees seeking a home. And we showed kindness. And this is how they've decided to repay. So let us not take Museveni for face value. Everything that they do or say, question it, think outside the box, break it down, dissect it. When they say something, it doesn't mean what they're saying. There's no good use for them to do anything for Ugandans. None. People who are actually, I forgot to mention this, they're giving out mosquito nets all over Uganda. Mosquito nets. Those mosquito nets are actually not clean or safe to be used by people, because they have agents that cause respiratory issues, breathing issues, and slow nerve agents that will make people, sick or weak or whatever the case might be. So it is important that if your people are asking, if your people are taking on these nets, if they're forcing them on people. I was talking to my relative earlier today, and they said that they were sick. The whole household is sick. And I said, so I asked some questions just to kind of figure out what's going on. And they said, you know what? They're not feeling well. Everyone is sick. And I said, so I asked a few questions, and I said, do they have mosquito nets that were given to them by the government? And he said, yeah, they got them recently, but everybody's sick. The baby's sick. My grandmother's sick. My sister is sick. Everyone is sick. And I said, that might be the issue that's causing them to all feel sick. So they're going to burn them, discard them, burn them, whatever you need to do. Do not take anything from Museveni's government. None of it is meant to be good for any Ugandan. Nothing. Stop Museveni tuyambe or Museveni help us, because Museveni is not here for Ugandans. No. Do not ask if something happens, even if it is a mudslide. Don't expect any help. Don't expect. The children who have passed away have not received, you would think there would be a national sort of, burial. There would be a day of mourning for those kids who have died. Over 45 kids, over 200 kids, I think. There would have been some sort of event to commemorate those children and what unfortunately happened to them. None of that has happened. None of that. Then Minister of Education did not come out to say, we're holding a special event for these children. No church has come out to say, let us pray for these children. Let us make a special service for these children to commemorate them and when they existed or whatever the case may be. Nothing. That goes to show you how much this Museveni person and their family and all of whatever whatever is made of them is not good for Uganda. They don't care about Ugandans. They don't. In fact, they prefer Ugandans do not exist in that country. They joke around often and say, man, I can't believe that truly people still exist. We killed those people like flies. They're still existing. That is what these people talk during their free time. And it sounds strange, but they're not joking. They're talking seriously about what's going on. About people's lives. That's how much they don't care. Ugandans, let's do things on our own for ourselves, for our own sake. Do not take mosquito nets from anybody. People who are going into places to give blood or doing blood draws, I understand. I'm still going to get some more information about that, but there are some people who are being injected with HIV virus in a process of either blood draw or I think it's during a blood draw process. And I know it's happening somewhere, but I will get you that information. So Museveni is not here for Ugandans. He's here to destroy Ugandans. Therefore, Museveni tuyambe is not a thing and is not going to help. Let us leave that alone and let us work on our own. And the leaders obviously have no power. There is not a single leader in Uganda who is Ugandan who has any power to do anything or advance anything or to bring about change. None. Museveni controls all of them. All of them. The judiciary, the parliament, the presidency, obviously, the military, the police, religious sects, all of them, all religious leaders. Recently, what is it called? Seventh-day Adventist pastor, I don't know what they call them, came out and said, why would the cleaning be ordered to be done on a Saturday? Because Saturday is Sabbath. It is the only time we hear that church. I even forgot that Seventh-day Adventist church exists in Uganda. You know why? I have never heard them speak about anything. All of these atrocities that have been going on, I have never heard a Seventh-day person come out and condemn them publicly. Never. Even just talking about it, being a part of something that is talking about it, passing by an event that is talking about it, no. But they come out to try to defend their sacred Saturday because it is Sabbath day. Well, good riddance to you, because it happened anyway. If you think you can exist in Uganda alone, safely away from the atrocities or the suffering that the Musevenis will cause to you, then you're mistaken, because it affects everyone that's Ugandan. Either you're suffering from it now, just got out from it, or you're in line to get to it. So it is imperative that people just come together and support change, which change is good for everyone. It's not for just a few people. We have seen suffering across the board. You know, when children die, that hurts all of us, because we have all either been children, have children, or know of somebody who has children. That pain should affect all of us, and not just a few. Not because they're NRM, not because they're PLU, not because they're National Unity Platform. Everybody must be affected by the normal things that must affect human beings in Uganda. Because if it's not happening now, it's coming. It's coming to you. It makes me really, really sad. Let us pray for our Honorable Mwanga Chivumbi, wherever he is. I don't believe Mwanga Chivumbi is without some angels that are going to help him pass through this. I do not believe so. In as much as there's so much that goes on in those dungeons, there has to be some people who are not ill-intended to do certain things to these people, to follow those orders through 100%. I don't believe he's without some sort of somebody who will say, here, drink some water. Here, let's do this, let's do this. That even if they send that person with the worst thing to come and do to Mwanga, that he will only do it a little less because he's trying to survive also. I don't believe Mwanga Chivumbi is without that. I pray and I hope that he has that, but I don't think he's without that. In all these processes, all these times that things have happened to people, to National Unity Platform people, there has been people who have walked closely with our people, even in the worst times of their lives. And I'm praying and believing there is one for Mwanga Chivumbi. I believe it. I believe it. I don't think everyone or all of them are going to be meant or are meant to finish him off. I really don't. But we can only pray. We can only pray. So I love you and leave you. It's been great being back and being here. I hope you have a great evening. I'll try to do another video this week with some more highlights, and give me some topics of what you want to hear so I can do some research and bring it. Okay? I love you so much. Stay Uganda, people power, our power. And the struggle continues. We don't give up, we continue. Okay? Thank you. Bye.